So today we're using the Colorful Life Design Split Stencil called Split Swirls, some silver shimmering Bliss, Fab 5 Phrases set of 9. We're using the Enjoy from that set, and we're using Ink Ice in Hailstone, which is a silver. Now the Ink Ice, most of them are translucent, so you can see through them easily. Let me show you an example of what I mean by that. Yeah, can you see the translucence of that? That's a very translucent product. This is two of the Ink Ices mixed together, or blended one over the other. But you can see that they're very translucent. They have a very different look than what we're going to be getting from this silver. So let me show you what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to show you two ways of doing this. The first is stamp first. The second is stamp over the actual Ink Ice. So they both work, and I just want to show you the differences between the two. What I'm going to do first is spray this with Silver Shimmering Bliss because we're creating a silver on silver look here. Normally when I spray and I'm at home, I actually spray over my garbage can so it just collects it all and I don't have to worry about collecting it. But what you need to do is mix it first because the mica is going to collect on the bottom here. Now I've used this quite a bit so it's been mixed, but rolling it back and forth between your hands is the best way to mix this, really. And then you're going to go way down low to the cardstock. There's only an inch there. I'm not 6 inches above. It might be a little hard to see here, but I'm only an inch above my cardstock. And I'm going to do nice, long, even strokes until this cardstock is covered. Nice, full coverage there. And then I'm going to let that sit. Now, this does not have to be fully dried all the way, but you do want it to dry enough so that you can stamp into it. So I'm just going to set that aside and let that dry. Notice that by doing that, you get very little overspray, just a tiny little bit here. I'm not spraying into a box or anything else, and that's the effect of having it really close to the cardstock. Okay, I want to mention, and I didn't mention this to begin with, this is watercolor paper that I have sprayed on. When you're using something like a silver, which is a full-on color, you have more of a chance of it just wiping off if you use a glossier cardstock. So you want to have something with tooth in it. Even if you don't use watercolor, you want a toothy paper. You don't want anything that's got gloss or it's got to have some tooth. So we're going to do this one with stamping first. So I've loaded my MISTI with the word enjoy. So I'm putting my cardstock so that it's in the corner. Now this might be still a little damp. I did dry this one with the heat tool, this watercolor paper, and I am using VersaFine Clair Black Onyx for this. I think it stamps really nicely into the shimmer. So I'm going to stamp that a couple of times. So I stamped that 3 times, and so that doesn't smear, I'm just going to hit that again with the heat tool. I'm going to take it out of my MISTI, the stamp positioner. I'm going to hit it with the heat tool real quick so that that does not smear. Okay, so let's start with the stencil. So I have the stencil here, and the stencil comes with all the pieces and parts that go inside of there. So all these little pieces and parts. So you could really be creative with what you do here too. But we're actually going to be using the actual split stencil. Because I have this on the bottom, I need to make sure that when I am covering this up, my word is covered. So the split stencil, most of us want to put it in a square, but you can actually tilt these a little bit. Like I'm going to tilt this one a little bit like this and move it around until I have it covered. Now a couple of things to realize, if I had it like this, see where that ends there on that corner? I would have to cut that corner off because it's not, it's a blank space and then an open space. So what you want to do is move that over and get it exactly where you want it. Just keep tilting it, moving it until you have it where you want it. It feels a little awkward when you do this the first time and you're tilting it in such a way that it's sideways. It feels sideways the first time that you do it, but you get used to that. So I'm using purple tape. I would not use pixie spray with this because it will lift the glimmer right off your cardstock. So I'm going to tape this down nice and firm. Now I'm presuming that you will use your stencil as much as I have used mine, which is a considerable amount. I have used this stencil. So some of my pieces are a little like up in the air. So when we put the zinc ice on there, we're going to make sure that we only put it on in one direction. I'm going right up to the edge of the cardstock because that will help keep these parts down too. These little pieces and parts right here in particular, and here. All right, so I'm just using a plain old palette knife and the zinc ice. Now, I have used this ice. People ask me all the time how long these last. I can't tell you except for that I was practicing this over and over again, and I have made 7 practice pieces, I guess, 6 or 7, and I still have, I don't know, more than half left. There's quite a bit in here. These pouches are recyclable, and because it's got such a small little nozzle on it, these don't dry out the way that big tube jars do. And I wouldn't let it sit for 2 or 3 years. You know, you never want to do that with any paint. You want to use it. So you're going to squeeze it out like it's toothpaste, and you can put it directly on your piece, or you can put it onto your brush. And when I put this down, I'm going to butter it down onto my cardstock in one direction. All right, now I say that and then I did 2 because I didn't start in that corner. But I want to do this nice and, you know, take my time doing it. Make sure the whole thing is covered. Just cover the whole thing. More toothpaste for me. See, once you push the ice onto these little parts, it holds them down. It holds them down nice and firm. Now, I told you to go in one direction, and then, of course, I do exactly the opposite thing because I didn't start at the end of the card. I started in the middle. So you might want to start at the end. One direction is really most important when you're dealing with these little parts, these little areas. And don't be afraid to really put this on. I have tried to drying this. I have heat tooled these, and I don't love the way that, I mean, if you're not careful, it will bubble. So rather than just taking that risk, if you're making such a beautiful, elegant card, just set it to the side and let it dry for 20 minutes or so. They're pretty much dry to the touch after 20, 25 minutes. Fully dry after an hour, I think. That's my opinion. It's hard to find a whole lot online about these yet. So I'm going by experience. Okay, so that's pretty well covered. I don't want to have anything like, I don't know if you can see that. It's almost like a little divot. I don't want divots on there. Okay, so I want that nice and covered. And then I'm going to just pull this full up in one spot. I mean, in one pull. Okay, and you can see how pretty that is. You can already see, I mean, it's so pretty. Now, I do have some oops on here. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to take a little tool like this, my little poker tool, and I'm just going to pull some of that into the sides there so that it's more perfect. Everybody gets some on there, in between there, now and then. So you just want to make sure that you don't. Just want to pull it in a little bit. Just so make it look a little bit more perfect. All right, so that, you see how pretty that is? So simple to do, and it's so pretty, and this will just take about 20 minutes to dry. Now, if I'm going to do this the other way, you want to wash your stencil so there's nothing underneath it. And I would just put this straight on so that you get that effect. And I just stamped using VersaFine Clear right on top of this. Isn't that pretty? I like it stamped on. So that's our tutorial today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye now.